All right, everyone, welcome back to another episode of Words of the Wise. Today I have Chief Price from Beaufort PD. She has 26 years experience in law enforcement. I'm really looking forward to this conversation. So welcome to the show, Chief Price. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited to be here. Thank you so much.
I'm excited too. We have so many amazing topics that I really want to make sure we have enough time to cover. But
Okay.
any background that you want to give us about who you are, how you got started in law enforcement, give us a little context.
So I started my law enforcement career in a giant to me, giant agency in Kansas City, Missouri Police Department. They had about 1,500 police officers at the time and 500 civilians. So I spent roughly 19 years there before I decided I was ready to move on to somewhere where it doesn't snow. Then I went to Savannah, Georgia as the assistant chief. And then I went to Bluffton, South Carolina as the chief. And now I'm here at Beaufort, South Carolina as the chief of police.
That's amazing. And you were not always in law enforcement. You had a career before law enforcement. So what made you step into this profession specifically?
So I had actually several careers. I was a EMT, a paramedic, a nurse, a hairstylist, if you can't tell. And I also, what else did I do? No, that's about it. That's about all I did. And I'm also a career student. So I'm still in school now. I'm getting my doctorate. So I really believe in education and experiences. So I continue to do that the whole entire time. But as far as being a police officer, it's kind of my family business. I have a couple brothers that were police officers, and I have some cousins that were police officers. So if nothing else, we have that in our family history. But I had three older brothers, and I grew up in the country, and I knew I could be a cop.
Mm,
It's
yeah.
just that simple.
You're like,
But
you looked at it and you're like, I would be really good at doing that.
I can do that. Yes, absolutely.
I love that. Coming from a really large organization and, kind of the trajectory of your career, I would imagine that you have learned from really good leadership and you've also maybe learned from leaders that maybe you felt like you could have done things better. Did you ever feel like, because I know when you and I talked about, you said that if you treat your officers better, that they're going to treat the community better. They're going to show up and they're going to be happier to do their job and they're going to be more productive. Where did you get that? Like, did you feel like there were times in your career where maybe you weren't treated that well, or you felt like there was an opportunity to do better now that you're in this leadership role?
Well, one thing that I can really relate to is when I was in the larger police department, we had to take these assessment centers, which thankfully we took because a lot of police chief processes are like that.
Mm.
But we took these assessment centers, and I'll never forget this book they made us read. And one line, and it stood out. And it was administrative stress is more stressful than stress in the field on
Mm.
officers. And I thought, well, if they know that, then why don't they do something about it? I mean, doesn't it just make sense if you know in a book for facts that I, as an administrator, am causing you more stress than you'll face at the end of a gun? I just don't understand. It's just not that difficult. Why wouldn't you treat your officers better? So I have always believed if you treat your officers amazing, they will treat those people that they are there to serve really well, and they'll understand more, and they'll be able to treat people better because people have treated them better.
Yeah.
That's where that comes from. So my wellness for my officers, and I trust me, I care for them very much. I do try to treat them as well as I can. I want them to treat our citizens just that well. I want them to have the right frame of mind to be of service.
Yeah. And, the one thing that amazes me is we talk about wellness, and a lot of times there's this conversation of like, well, we don't have the money, we don't have the funding for wellness. But what you just described is effort. It's not necessarily dollars. It's saying, how can we treat people really well? And in return, they're going to treat others in the community really well. Have you seen that translate? Like the effort that you guys have put organizationally, have you seen that translate into the field and better policing in general?
I will tell you that they humble me weekly with the things that they do to go above and beyond for the citizens, guest visitors, anybody who stops by, even, people calling on the telephone. They treat the citizens very well. I sometimes I hear stories. I'm like, You really did that? I would have never done. I can't believe that you guys did this. And they're like, well, don't you expect us to do that? Yes, I do. But you guys really took it to the nth degree. So I have seen that. And I've actually heard them say, well, that's what you told us to do. You told us you treat us really well. So don't you want us to treat our citizens this good, right? You want us to go extra mile and, you know, give somebody and their dog a 2 mile ride in the back of the police car or traverse. We have pluff mud here. If you guys don't know what that is, it's really thick, sticky mud in the river. They went and saved a blind dog who couldn't get back to his owner. And
Mm.
they all got chest deep in mud to try to save the blind dog, who's also deaf, of course, to get back to the owner. This is the only thing that she has is the
Oh,
dog. And the dog came by to thank us.
yeah. Well, and I would imagine too, even just like having those interactions with the community where you feel like you're making a difference in someone's life also helps with wellness, right? There's that fulfillment factor to it of like, I'm actually helping people. And I know that everyone in law enforcement that I've ever met, wants to help people. And so when you get the opportunity to do that, I'm sure that that also adds to wellness. And I want to know, like, because we have a lot of leadership that listen to this podcast. What does treating your people, what do you do specifically? Like, what does that look like in action? So if there's anyone who's listening who's like, man, the culture here is really difficult, or maybe they're entering into a culture as a new chief, or they're like, how do we change things around? What are maybe some of those like tactical things that you do on a daily basis?
I spend time with my people when I don't have to. I spend time with my people and ask them how you're doing. I really want and value their input. I'm the chief now. I'm not the chief tomorrow. One of them may be the chief tomorrow here or somewhere else. But I really want their input into how our department's going, the trajectory of our department. If they were me, what would they like to do?
Mm,
And what do they think that I should be doing that I'm not doing? And once you start having those conversations, just like the wellness conversation, and that wellness conversation goes hand in hand with it. I care enough about you to care about you. Do you care enough about you to care about you? Because I do. And if I'm the chief, then you should too. Right. So let's prioritize what really matters. At the end of the day, you're going to answer all these calls, you're going to see all these things. But at the end of the day, you go home with you. Are you your own friend?
mm,
Because let's be honest, you're the only person you're guaranteed to be with your entire life.
yeah.
Husbands come and go, wives come and go. You get a new one, you get a new girlfriend, you get a new boyfriend, you lose the boyfriend, you lose the girlfriend. Kids stop talking to you, God forbid. Or worse, right? And eventually, I heard humans don't live forever. So some folks pass, and that's very sad. But you are the person that you're guaranteed to be with your whole entire life. Are you your own friend and your own advocate? And if you're not, why? And what can we do to get you there? Because if you don't like you, it's hard to like other folks.
Yeah, I really like that. And I had a mentor when I was kind of coming up in my career, and I had done what I think a lot of people had learned to do is kind of shoved everything down and wasn't prioritizing myself or my wellness. And I had an instance where we were told to sit and like sit in silence. And I was like hysteric. Like I could not sit with myself. And I went up to my mentor after and I was like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, I don't want to like take care of myself. I don't want to like sit with whatever it is that I shoved down. And he looked at me and he said something very similar. He's like, if you don't want to sit with you, how are you going to expect anyone else to want to sit with you? And it was this moment of like, you got to take care of you because like you can't expect anyone else to show up for you if you're not going to show up for you. And it was a defining moment for me that I'll always remember. And I think that sometimes we forget that. We're so focused on how can we help other people that we forget that we have to be our number one. And that's not selfish. I know a lot of people will say that they're like, it's super selfish. I was like, I don't think that's selfish at all. I think that in order for you to be the best anything, you have to first take care of you, and then you can be the best husband, wife, parent, employee, whatever that is, leader. But if you're not good with you, then everything else starts to fall apart. It's like the foundation that you need to be successful.
And it's the only person you can't get away from, no matter what you do, right?
100%. 100%.
You're what you got there.
Yeah. So I know that you, obviously wellness is important to you, and we've talked offline about this, but you have a ton of stuff organizationally that you guys have been able to do. I was hoping that you could tell us a little bit more about what you're doing and how you were able to do that.
Okay, no problem. Um, first off, I'd like to say I've tried, wellness has always been important to me. It has always been something as a police officer, you see things, you do things, you see your friends doing things. But, one time I had a person say to me, it was a cop. I said, hey, because I really liked him. How have you been? He was at the time my husband's partner in a homicide. And he had worked for me and around me. And I really like this guy. I really still like him. But I said to him, hey, how was your weekend or whatever I said? And he goes, you know, I sat with my weapon in my mouth last night.
Wow.
Well, what do you say? I didn't know what to say. I mean, they've trained me to do all these things under the sun, right? I can stop a bank robbery and know how to talk to a murderer. I can de-escalate a situation. You got a bomb, I'm your gal, lost kitten, whatever. But we don't really train each other what to say to each other when
Mm,
it comes to that. And so I was super bothered by that. And of course, I talked to him and we talked to him, got him help and blah, 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 blah. But the point is, this situation is not unique and this situation is not new. And again, if we know this, why aren't we doing something about this? I mean, what, you're twice as likely to die by suicide if you're a cop? I don't know that statistic offhand, but it's, we always have a gun present. The motive means are always there.
yeah.
So that's always been important to me. I've done other wellness initiatives in other police departments I've been to, but it bothered me that I didn't have the metrics to know if it was making a difference.
Mm,
And so all I could think about was the research opportunities that exist in law enforcement. I mean, with things like COVID, the incidents of, police riots and things like that, it just bothered me that we didn't have any metrics to measure how well our wellness was or not. What was working? How do we know? How do we know it's working? And so in this police department in this time, I actually partnered with the Cummings Foundation. It is a group of research behavioral psychologists out of Reno. And essentially, I got a cold call from their foundation. It was actually an email, and they said, are you interested in wellness? And I assumed it was somebody trying to sell me something because a lot of people do that. And yeah, I love wellness. I'm interested in wellness. So I called the gentleman up. It's Dr. Baker, by the way. Shout out to Dr. Longstore, is them as well, and the Cummings Foundation. And he said, can we meet and talk? And I said, absolutely. So basically, he came in and he said, we offer a way for holistic wellness of working with your department. And we want to come in and we want to, look at all these things in your apartment. And I said, okay, well, so how much is this? And he goes, it's nothing. And I said, okay, well, what do you want? I
mhm.
mean, and he said, well, and I said, well, do you want research? Do you want to be published? He goes, absolutely. That's what we want. I said, oh, well, I mean, you can absolutely publish whatever you want on us. So we entered into a partnership. We were accepted into their program. And essentially, they have a holistic wellness picture that they do. So they provided us with a gym. They give us a physical trainer that comes 3 times a week. We have mandatory mental health check-ins annually from a police psychologist. They give us metabolic screenings where they do blood draws on us. They do surveys on us. And then that's followed up by a dietitian and nutritionalist. They also provide resiliency training. And recently they did neurological mapping, which I don't really know what that's all about. We were one of their first
Mm,
folks that they tried that on. But the thing is this, we didn't have any money either. I know that some of the departments out there won't. But what could you do if you partnered up with a educational facility that wanted to do research on stress management, wanted to do research on kinetics of the body, any of those kind of things? Look at your local resources and see what you have. And even though I said that they were in Reno, we do have colleges here that would be more than willing and researchers that would be more than willing to look at your department and help you out. They could use that for their doctoral thesis. You need to look in ways that aren't particularly focused just on law enforcement, that are more focused on the human condition and human bodies and how to make things better for everyone.
Yeah. I love that. And one of the things that you had said to me offline is that it's easy to talk about wellness, but it's a
It
lot harder to take action. And I'm really glad that you gave some tactical advice to people who are maybe in infancy stages or who are wanting wellness programming, but maybe don't have the funding or maybe haven't thought about it in that way, because sometimes I think we can be our own limitations with stuff. If we're like, well, we don't have the budget, therefore we can't. But it's like, how can you still take action, but maybe in a more creative way and thinking a little bit outside of the box? So I'm really glad that you said that and I appreciate that. My question for you is, how do you get people within the organization? I know you said this a little bit earlier about like you have to worry about you. How do you get your team to take action for themselves and to utilize these resources and take advantage of these things?
Well, first off, we talk about it. We talk about since I've now worked here almost 3 years. I have been talking about health and wellness and mental health for the entire time that I've been here. So they were used to hearing it, and it was little by little they were used to hearing it. When it came time to sign up for mandatory, which they got paid for, mental health evaluations, which they didn't have a choice because they sent them on duty. Um, by the time that that rolled around, I had exactly one person out of 64 who said, I'll pass, I'm not going. And I was like, oh, that's great. That's mandatory. So you're going to go. And, but they'd already heard about it. I mean, can you imagine 63 other people going to, all right, if that's what they want to do? And by the time they came back from the mental health lady, it just happens to be a lady in this case, they gave the biggest police compliment that you can get. Huh, that wasn't so bad. I like her. I mean, that might have been as well been a gold star when I sent him somewhere. So one, I talk about it early and often, and I also look for opportunities to, of course, go and do things with them, right? So this is actually my time that I get to hang out. And so, for instance, I noticed we used to get off work at 5 o'clock. And I noticed right around 4:40, we're just standing there kind of looking at each other, waiting for 5 o'clock to roll around. I thought, well, this is really an incredible waste of time. Why? I mean, we're here a lot. We're just waiting on 5 o'clock. I was like, we're going to start stretching. So what we did was we started 4:20 stretching, 4:30 stretching. And it cost absolutely no money because we turned the TV on YouTube and we looked for a channel. Okay, it was yoga, but I called it stretching for obvious reasons. And I picked the simplest, easiest yoga and I started talking about it. Hey, we're going to stretch for 10 minutes. So we started stretching at 4:30. We stretched for 10 minutes. And at 4:40, you got off work early if you participate.
And did everyone participate?
I have quite regular people that participate
I
that,
love
yes.
that.
So I'm going to let you off work a little bit early if you can care enough about yourself to get out here and stretch. Yep.
I love that. And I told you this when you told me that, I had the biggest smile on my face because I have interviewed maybe 200 chiefs across the country, and I've never heard anyone say, you know what, at the end of shift, we just stretch and then we get to get off early and we do it together as a team. And we know that one, mobility is so important,
Yep.
and it really does impact longevity and injury prevention. You're sitting behind the desk, you're sitting in your squad car all day, so getting out and moving your body a little bit. When you are doing a yoga type practice or a stretching type practice, you are also breathing and regulating your nervous system. So it's down regulation before you go home to your family, which is super effective. And I love that you said, like, step one, communication. We're going to talk about this. Step two, everyone's doing it. So it's normal. It's not like someone's going through the back door and people are judging. Everyone's doing it. And then step three, you are also participating in these things with them and trying to find, creative ways to build that like team mentality and um, culture of wellness through like group activities, like stretching 30 minutes before you guys leave and then head out early. So I think that that is really cool. And have you, I mean, I guess I'm already hearing kind of like the pushback in my head or like, other people being like, well, we don't have the time for that. Or, well, we don't have maybe the buy-in from the sergeants, or we don't have, what would you say to like anyone who's like, well, we can't do that or we don't have time for that?
So you don't have time for that. I just don't believe that's true. You make time for what's important to
Yeah.
you. You could say that I don't have time every day to go around this building and say good morning to everyone, but I do.
Hmm.
I do. And when I don't, they're like, oh, well, we didn't think you were here today. You didn't come by and say hi. So, what is it that you want to show your future generations, and what is it you want to leave them with? I
Yeah.
want to leave them with a culture of wellness and the camaraderie that those groans make when you are stretching. Um, Unpleasant at the time, but I'm here to tell you now that leads to some hilariousness. So you're right. It isn't just about stretching. I truly, you got time. You have time. If you have time to complain about, which not the police complain, but
Mhm.
if you have time to sit in your squad car and park window to window, because I know they still do that, and complain about your command staff, well, you've got time to do that, don't you? It really is all about what you make time for. And by the way, you want to spend your life complaining, or would you rather spending it with your people having fun?
Yeah.
I
I
mean, it's just that simple. I want to have a good time and make a difference. What are your priorities? What are your priorities? And I want to make sure that they're healthy. And I want to make sure that they drain our retirement system. I really do. I want them to live the longest, best life. And when they look back on being a police officer, I want them to smile.
Yeah, I'm so glad that you said that because I think that sometimes you forget that you have that choice to
You
be
do.
happy and to have that joy. And, if you create that culture within your organization where people are stretching and laughing with each other, it's like that counter to some of the other more stressful things that you guys are going to see when you're out in the field. And so, how can you create that within yourself and within your team? And I really am a huge, huge proponent for, and I actually learned this acronym from another chief and I really liked it, but he said PMA, positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
And I really believe that. I think that we have control over our actions and reactions to things, and we have the choice. Do we want to live our lives, like you said, complaining and negative and like going down this like rabbit hole of negativity, or do we want to search for some of the good things? Do we want to have fun, even if it's uncomfortable and everyone's stretching together and like everyone's groaning at the same time? Like, that's okay. It's fun. How can you look for some of the more positive things? How can you have more gratitude in your life? And how can you lead with more of that positive mental attitude?
I'll tell you another thing that we do here is we also have like walks in our city. So we will advertise to the neighbors, hey, in a certain area, come and join us. And so those are called the Chiefs Walks. So we invite the community to come out, and we have the officers come out, and ones generally are off duty or command staff who's already here will get dressed up in their active clothes, and we'll go like Jim type of terror, and we'll go with our police shirts on, and we walk the streets. When you do that, it lets the community see you out and about and wave at the people. People come out of their houses. We do make time for that. And one important thing that I did forget to tell you is any kind of wellness activity that we do, we reward those wellness activities with 2 hours off work. So they're non-compensable hours, meaning if you get terminated or you quit or something like that, you're never getting paid for them. But if you want to use that like vacation 2 hours, you certainly can. And so we have a certain limit that you can get. It's 24 hours in a year. So 3 days off, 2 days off, depending on how you look at it. We made it divisible by 12 for obvious reasons. Um, and so then you can use those wellness hours to actually spend time with your, you can use it for whatever you want, but we encourage you to spend time with your family on times that you wouldn't usually. So if you participate in these activities, you also get rewarded that way.
Yeah, and it's a win-win.
I think so.
You're
They
healthier and you have time off.
Yes, right.
It's
Well,
like a
there's a couple of
no-brainer.
things you don't mess with, right? Like a cop. You don't mess with their time, you don't mess with their money, and then you don't mess with their family.
Yeah.
Just super simple. So if you can reward any of those things, then you're really winning.
Well, and I really like that you said we encourage them to be with their families because we know that home wellness is a big piece of the puzzle. And how can you encourage that wellness at home too? And you had mentioned earlier, having a long and successful retirement. And one of the things that I heard, and I've mentioned this a few times on this podcast because it really stuck with me. I talked to someone one time and they said that they were so afraid to retire because they didn't know their family anymore. They had prioritized so much of their life to their work, and that was it, that when it came up for retirement, they're like, I don't know my family. I don't know my wife. I don't know my kids. I wasn't there. And so, to your point of what you said earlier, how can you proactively put in place resources and create that culture to where not only do you have a long and successful career, but then you have a long and successful retirement. And when you get to the end of that retirement, you have your family still intact in one way or another, whether you're married or not, but it's your family, and that could be anybody, really. I think you can choose your family. But at the end of the day, you still have those relationships that you can lean on outside of the career.
Absolutely. And before usually somebody's going to retire, I start personally talking to them about, okay, what are your hobbies? What are you going to do? Because you can't just do nothing because you know what happens when you do nothing.
Hmm.
So like I actually am having this couple of those talks with a couple of people here now. And I'm like, so let's make a plan. Like, what are you going to do? Like, let's talk about what your plans are for after these plans. And if you start talking and thinking about that a few years out, and I've also started talking to them about like you need to take off more time. Like you need to spend more time, especially the more tenured folks. You need to spend time with your family. Like we're okay, right? This is, you're supposed to be training your replacements, so let your replacements work.
Mm.
So let them stand in for you while you go enjoy it. We'll still be here. We'll miss you. There's still a place for you. It's not about that, but it is about, why don't you take a little bit more time off? Why don't you reward yourself just a little bit more along the way and get yourself used to what's coming in a few years?
Yeah.
So
I actually don't know if I've ever heard that before either. And I had the question before of like, how can organizations better prepare people for retirement? Because there are so many people that get to the end and they're like, now what? But if you can again be proactive on the front end and start having those conversations early of like, what are you going to do? Are you going to teach? Are you going to travel? Are you going to, get another job and have another career after this? What does that look like? Do you have supportive relationships that you can lean on if things are challenging? And then I think beyond that, how can you also have some of the resources. And if you've prepped them beforehand and they're used to doing some of this stuff, like maybe they're used to doing yoga now. And so that's something that they continue with into retirement.
yeah, well, they need to think about physical activity, right?
Yeah.
And the stretching really started out with, because we're a little bit older around the office, and you need to keep up that mobility, right? So I've been reading a lot of stuff about stretching and how as you get older, blah 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 blah. So that's how that actually came. Nope, we don't have any 21-year-old commanders. Let's just put it that way.
Yeah. Well, I always tell people you don't get more flexible as you get older. So, you
Yeah,
know,
you really don't.
I feel the same way. One of the things I want to talk to you before we, kind of close out for the day, you had told me, and I really want this to come from you because I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but you said that you had reduced crime by hundreds of percents. Can you tell us what you mean by that? What happened?
All right, so I'll try to make it quick. So in February, was it February or was it August? It was July. July of 2023, it seemed like we were having a lot of shots fired calls. And I mean, for a town, so Beaufort's about 13,800 people. It just seemed like we were having an inordinate amount of shots fired calls. So we decided to do an analysis of shots fired. And that's all I wanted to know. Hey, are we having a lot of shots fired calls, or is it just something I'm making up, or is it fireworks? I don't know. So we did an analysis, and this yielded a couple significant, maybe three significant things. One, we're not even kidding, to do 2 to 3 years of data on the systems that we had and what we had in place, it took 3 months to comb through the data. And I thought that was absolutely unacceptable, that crime analysis should take 3 months for a single question.
Mhm.
That was one thing but on the back burner for that one. Another thing that we noticed is this were around and about multi family apartment complexes. And they were generally low end apartment complexes, either Section 8 or reduced rent. And so what we decided to do was really focus on those. So I know that, there's such things as, risk terrain modeling, where you look at the factors, the physical factors of a place, and then you take that and talk about, well, how does that relate to crime? Does it correlate? Is there what the relationship value is to that? And then, of course, the community, you had to get them involved. And of course, crime-free multi-housing kind of facets for that. And of course, the management of the community. So we took those factors. So we took the police officers, the community members that live inside the community, and the community managers, and we all got together and we thought, okay, we're doing something about this. What is that something? So we got input from the people that live there, the community managers, and the police, and we all got on board and we came up with Safe Living Beaufort. We didn't name it that right away. We were just like, let's take care of crime in this one apartment complex. But what we did was we built a framework to carry on to other apartment complexes. We now have 5 apartment complexes. We went from having murders and having shots fired, assaults, larcenies, and everything like that inside the apartment complexes. And we're almost at now, we have about 1 or 2 incidents of crime a month in each one of them. But it's went down from like 30, 40, 50 all the way down. I mean, we really reduced it. And what happens was we made this a focus of our police department. We go through the apartment complexes, we get out of our vehicles and we walk, and I mean me, and everyone does it. We walk the apartment complexes. Our canine units get out and they walk the apartment complexes. We meet with the apartment managers, we attend and we host community events at our apartment complexes. And let's be honest, with the low income housing, these are our citizens that are most vulnerable, that need the best chance to grow up with the best circumstances. I don't want children to be diving out of their bed because they hear sounds of gunshots and bullets going through their windows, which has happened.
Yeah.
So we need to give them the best chance at learning and at life as we can. And that's the way we decided to do this. And what we also did was we put each one of we have first sergeants here, which are in charge of our patrol teams. They are actually in charge of that apartment complex. So that apartment complex is theirs, and they get a report to us about what they've been doing. So they plan the events, they get all the stuff for all the events, they see what each apartment complex needs. Do you need school supplies? Or are you hungry? You know what I'm saying? Like, what are your needs? Then they work with local businesses. Walmart's our great partner here. And then they work to provide those events with also amusements for the kids. And I'll tell you how effective this is, not just telling you that crime was reduced by hundreds of percent. And it's true, it was. It recently snowed here in Beaufort, which they never get snow here, but it recently snowed. And when it snowed, one of our apartment complexes called up and asked for their officer at the police department. They wanted their officer to come sled with them on snow day.
Oh.
Their officer was off. And so we asked, can we send you a replacement? He's on work. They're like, yeah, I guess. I mean, that's how much they know their police officer that's assigned to them. So their first sergeant was off. So we sent a replacement officer, which I guess had a great time because they were sliding down the hills on cardboard. Because that's all they had, because they don't have sleds here. So it's just that kind of thing. I mean, what a whole apartment complex calls up and asks for their officer to the police department because they know their officer and they wanted their officer to come play with them on the day that it snowed and they were out of school.
I love that. You didn't tell me that offline. That's
No, I did.
amazing. And
That's like one of my favorite stories. But I was like, they
so
were
good.
disappointed their officer couldn't make it. I mean, I wouldn't say they were mad, but they weren't happy about it. But they accepted the
That's
replacement
so
officer.
good. Well, and it's like the community sees you, they trust you, they have positive interactions with you. And to your point too, it's like, how can you set people up for success? How can you try to get people out of hard situations? How can you make sure that the youth knows that there's a chance, an opportunity for them to get out of a bad situation, that they don't have to walk a similar path of crime, that they do have, they now have that relationship with the officer. Maybe they want to be him one day because they're friends and they look up to him, and so I think that that's incredible, and it actually makes me really emotional. Like I came from a hard childhood with drug addict parents, and I never had that message of like, we're here for you, and like, we want you to succeed and you can be something great, and we see you. And so I think that that is incredible. Thank you for sharing that, and thank you for all that you've done there, because again, I've never heard anyone say that, but that must be rewarding. And I would say that that also plays into wellness. Now
It
your
does.
your officers are having these, interactions. We said this earlier, where they're like, wow, I'm really helping these people, and they feel safer in their own homes, and they want me to come sledding with them and their kids. How
Right.
cool
And
is
so
that?
does that not play into wellness as well? You get out of your vehicle,
Yeah,
people see you. So the more strategies that you can have with the interplay between them, right? So the more of those strategies you can have that have cross purposes, people see the why and they want to work harder for you and for themselves and for the community.
100%. So you are a big metrics girl. I can
We
tell
like
all
women.
the stuff that
Yes.
you're saying. What do you think the true long-term ROI is for all of this, for all of the wellness efforts? What is the ROI?
Every cop, every single one of them, every officer in this whole land, past, future, and present, did one thing. And I know it for a fact, they raised their hand and they swore to protect and serve, right? They're going to protect and serve. They're going to uphold the Constitution. The ROI is when you can feel that on day one
Mm,
and you're 32. And you don't need more than that, do you?
no, I love
You
that.
did what you said you were going to do, and we thank you for it. And you still have that passion and compassion to be in law enforcement.
Yeah. My final question for you, and it's kind of on the same lines. What words of wisdom would you have with someone who's earlier in their career? Maybe something that you wish you would have known earlier, or something that's helped you along the way.
Okay. This was, yeah. So of course things happen to you and you're like later on you don't realize. I'm like, oh, that's an amazing. Anyway, so what I would tell the young people is this, or the just entering people, because they're not generally young anymore. Sometimes they do midlife enter into law enforcement, is two things. Please don't overlook opportunities. It may not seem like an opportunity to you at the time, but take advantage of things that are presented to you because someone is giving you this, saying, I believe in you.
Mm,
I believe in you. I want you to experience X. Take advantage of that, even though it does not seem like an opportunity. You will be given jobs, you will be given assignments, tasks, and projects that seem strenuous. That's just one more thing on top of another. You should do your best at it. You should do your best at it because someone gave you that opportunity because they believe in you and
mm,
they want to help you further yourself. The end result of that project or job opportunity, that is a result of you. Shine your best. That's what I would say. And two, be curious for God's sakes. Ask why. You probably don't know the answer that you think you know. Ask them instead of, oh my gosh, they messed something up. Well, why would you do it that way? What are you seeing that I'm not seeing? Can you please help me see what you see? It will help create a bridge of understanding when you use your curiosity to deepen a meaning of an action or an idea.
thank you.
You're
Amazing
welcome.
wisdom. I appreciate your time so much. Thank you for coming on here and spending some time with me talking about wellness. I really appreciate you.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. And to any y'all can reach out to me if you have any questions about anything. These are my favorite topics to talk about. So when you called, thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to talk about wellness and leadership. It really is near and dear to my heart if you can't tell. And I really do. I will share whatever. If y'all have questions about anything, if you want to tell me something like, hey, did you think about X? And oh, and just a little for instance too. I thought it would be great. I've done this in other places to give sabbaticals,
Mm,
right? So I've brought sabbaticals to law enforcement in another place that I worked, and I wanted to do that here. They didn't want it. So what I'm telling you that for is this. ask your folks what they want. They may not want what you think they want. They don't want what you want. But as long as you get on the same page and you open up that dialogue and those conversations, you can figure out how to be better together.
Yeah. Thank you. And I'll make sure
It's
that I
like,
put like your information, obviously, like on the podcast. So if anyone has questions, they can reach out to you. So thank you so much.
that's great. Thank you so much. Please, please be safe and have a great